Our new president has been in office for just under 4 months as of the recording of this video. And my, how things have changed. If you went back just 5 months ago, actually, let's say go back 1 year, 12 months ago. If you looked at the policies our federal government was pushing just 12 months ago, you'd see that those policies, virtually every single one of them, is the exact opposite of what the current administration is pushing, what they're supporting. It seems to me that every time there's a change in the political party that holds the highest office, the presidency, there's a 180-degree shift in the policies being pushed on the American public. Now, what policies am I talking about? How about immigration, the border? What about environmental regulations or national security? What about the internal operations of the federal government itself? Things like agency budgets, hiring practices, and the creation or reorganization of current agencies. It seems that every 4 to 8 years, there's a complete flip-flop on what the federal government is trying to push, what they're supporting. Now, what about control of Congress? That definitely has an impact on policy in the U.S. Whichever party has control of the House and or Senate has a great deal of power to affect public policy. The simple fact is that policy, the direction our political leaders choose to take, is either up or down, left or right, depending on which party is in power. Policies change, but parents can't. Parents don't change their policy. They can't. It would only confuse and unsettle their kids. Kids need a consistent parental approach. You can't tell them up is the right direction to travel and then sometime later tell them, oh, down is now the right way to go. That's confusing. Parents need to understand. They need to accept that every 4 to 8 years, our federal policies in this country are likely going to flip. They're going to flip 180 degrees. They're going to go from supporting certain social and environmental positions to basically attacking those same positions. Our federal governmental policies regarding the economy, international relations, national security, etc., they are very likely going to flip-flop. Parents have to provide a solid foundation for their kids. They have to give their kids a consistent path to follow when it comes to raising them. Now, it doesn't matter to me whether you are left-leaning or right-leaning. It's your choice to raise your kids with a liberal mindset or a conservative mindset. That's your business. I mean, that's one of the many things that makes America the golden destination for so many people around the world. It's about freedom. Freedom to choose our own path. Now, whatever the current administration is supporting, whichever political party holds the highest office, whichever political party holds power in Congress, that shouldn't dictate how you raise your kids. It can't. Parents set policy for their kids, no one else. Parents raising an independent, confident, good decision maker actually use these governmental flip-flops as a tool to help strengthen their kids. What they don't do, what parents should absolutely not do, is allow whatever current policy is pushed by our federal bureaucracy to drive their parenting approach. Now, here's why that's a disaster in the making. Even if the current administration's public policy agenda happens to align with whatever your particular beliefs are, that current alignment, it doesn't matter, because over the 18 years your son or daughter is probably going to be a member of your household. the federal administration's approach to solving problems, that will change. It's going to. It does. It will probably flip every 4 years. Now, yes, historically speaking, it's more likely to flip every 8 years. But does that really matter? It will flip. It'll do a 180. 1 year, there might be a huge push to address climate change or immigration. And then all of a sudden, about 12 months later, new president, zero effort. That's to say, very few resources being expended to address those issues. And here's why that matters. How do you explain to a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old or an 8-year-old that something that means a great deal to you is all of a sudden the opposite of what the current president or current Congress believes in? Kids growing up, they have a difficult enough time dealing with the basic issues that directly impact their lives. Like making friends or dealing with a bully, or trying to get good grades in school or make the team that they're trying out for. That list goes on and on. That list shouldn't include national and international issues that are adult issues. It shouldn't. It's damaging to introduce adult issues to little kids. They are not intellectually or emotionally ready to deal with adult issues. Let me give you an example of what my wife and I did when my young son, he was elementary aged kid, brought up pollution and climate and the environment. My wife and I did not start talking to him about, industrial pollution credits or whether or not the ice caps were melting. What we did do was focus him on things he could actually do. We talked to him about what affected him personally. That's what we asked him. What matters to you? What affects your life, right now? He had to stop. He stopped. He had to think about that for a little while. But he ultimately said that he hates seeing garbage everywhere. Garbage on the sides of the road, or especially in the parks he liked to visit. So, what do? My son and I went to the local public park and picked up trash. Now, that was something real that he could do to make an actual positive change in the world, in kind of his world. He could do that and make a difference. It's a small difference, but it's a difference nonetheless. My wife and I did not encourage our son to protest or write a letter to our local congressperson about those issues. Because, let's face it, doing one of those things, even both of those things, they don't really do anything. They don't. They might make you feel good, but they don't solve the problem. My wife and I wanted to teach our young son that if he wanted to make a positive change in the world, he needed to start small. I mean, come on. He's just a little kid. What options did he really have? So, picking up trash at the public park, it made him feel good. It was actually doing something about something that was a concern to him. Now, here's the really cool thing that happened while we're out doing that, picking up trash in the local public park. So we're out there picking up trash. I think we had each filled, probably a 30-gallon trash bag each. When we come to an area in the park, it was mostly hidden, and it was part of a water runoff area. I mean, we were both stunned. The amount of garbage in front of us, it was like a truckload. It was way beyond anything we could do. So he looks at me and he asks, "What do we do about that?" And my answer was nothing. That amount of trash was way beyond anything we were capable of cleaning up. And of course, that gave me the opportunity to talk to him about what I'll call levels of commitment or participation, the ability to actually affect change, real change. Some things are beyond an individual's or even a few people's ability to accomplish. Some issues require a much larger degree of effort, a much more substantial commitment. Now, stay with me for this one. It will come back to and tie into what I'm talking about. Did you know that approximately 10 million young men were drafted to serve in the military in World War II? 10 million United States citizens. And that's not including the 350,000 or so women that volunteered to serve at that time. World War II, that issue required a whole lot of effort, a whole lot of commitment to resolve it. And I'm not even including the millions of men and women from our ally nations that helped win that war. That's an example of some problems that require huge commitments, huge sacrifices, huge investments in time and money. Some problems are so far beyond any individual's ability to address that they're virtually, incomprehensible. My son and I were able to pick up everyday trash that had accumulated in certain areas of his favorite park. But that one area, that was too much. It was way beyond us. Governmental policy, first and foremost, generally speaking, requires enormous amounts of resources to solve, amounts of time and money, amounts of resources that are quite frankly beyond the average American of even wrapping their mind around. I mean, we're talking about billions of dollars, sometimes trillions of dollars. Allowing governmental policy to drive your parenting, it's a big mistake. First, because whatever side you're on regarding some public policy issue, your side will very likely fall out of favor when there is a change of political party in control. Second, these issues are so big that although everyday people may have an opinion on those issues, everyday people have little to no ability to actually address those issues. Adults can use their voting power to try and affect change, but children don't have that power. Third, and most important, regarding your role as a parent, exposing your children to adult issues that they have absolutely no ability in any way, shape, or form to solve, it's wrong. It will just overwhelm them. Some issues are too massive, too formidable for even an adult to tackle on their own. Don't burden your son or daughter, a child, with those challenges. When my son and I went to pick up trash, that was something he could do. He got an immediate result from those efforts. We chose an area of the park that looked terrible. But when we left, maybe an hour and a half or so later, that area of the park was completely free of trash. And that's a great feeling of accomplishment for a young person. He looked at that. He looked at it before and after. And he said to himself, I did good. And he did. He had. That huge mess we saw that we couldn't even begin to address, we just basically ignored it. It was all we could do. That issue was beyond us. But that utter disaster of filth we saw, that gave me the opportunity, a great opportunity, to not just explain that some problems are too big to handle for any one person. It gave him, my son, the opportunity to really understand up close and personal that some problems are for others to solve, too big for him. Some problems are too big to solve, and that's okay. Burdening a child with adult problems, that's not okay. You can't put the weight of the world on a child's shoulders. That's damaging. That's one of the reasons we see so many adults from the last few generations in therapy with terrible mental health issues. Bringing up complicated adult issues like immigration or the border, civil rights, environmental regulations, national security, It's too much for someone so young. It's too much for a child. It will harm them. History has proven that. We see its effects all around us today, with millennials, Gen Zs, and now Gen Alpha suffering, trying to shoulder the burden of adults. Parents, please don't do this. Governmental policy will change. Your parenting approach, the philosophies you use to raise your kids, those can't flip-flop every 4 to 8 years. That will only confuse and scare your kids. Raising an independent, confident, good decision maker is all about helping your kids learn the difference between what they can do and what they can't. It's about teaching them when they can make a difference and how they can make a difference. It's not about asking them to shoulder the responsibilities that break the backs of so many adults. Don't burden your children with your grievances. Accept that they'll develop their own in time. Help prepare them to deal with those things they deem an injustice when they become adults. Thanks for listening.